Hi, I'm Shelley Wood and this is my tiny sewing room where I make doll clothes sewing videos. Today I'm going to show you how to make an adorable Hawaiian shirt, which actually has been designed to fit my little 8-inch plush bear, which also has a free pattern and a tutorial on my website, shelleywood.com. So you can make the bear as well. But before we begin this little Hawaiian shirt project, please go to my website, shelleywood.com, so you can download and print this free PDF sewing pattern for the Hawaiian shirt. Use the pattern to cut out all the pieces shown here. Using some kind of a Hawaiian or South Pacific style of fabric, lay one shirt front on top of another, keeping right sides together. Sew down the front closure and along the bottom. Sew a collar flap at the top. Now this is going to create a lapel, and I'm sorry it's hard to see my black thread in spots in this video. Follow these directions to create both fronts. It is easier to see the top flap on this front. Right there, you can kind of see what I'm talking about for the lapel. And we're making two of these fronts. Now you should have two front pieces sewn. Clip your corners and invert. Now a chopstick can help you invert your garment pieces. What you'll want to do is when you invert it, use the chopstick gently with a little bit of a twist, especially to get that lapel to kind of look crisp. I hope you guys can't hear my husband. I think he's outside cutting wood with or maybe he's doing some kind of yard work with the weed cutter. He's making a lot of noise. Sorry about that. It should stop. And I'm sorry that my video isn't perfect on that little clip. I think I was on vacation when I made this video. Press the seams you've made so far. Lay one of the shirt backs on top of another. Now this is kind of different. You're going to keep the wrong sides together for the back. This means the pretty side is facing you on this side, but if you lift it up, you'll see that it's facing away from you on the bottom, okay? Sew around the neckline just to stabilize that neckline. Lay one of the inverted fronts on top of the back. Sew across the shoulder. I probably should have used yellow thread for this project. I'm really sorry about that. Press these shoulder seams, pushing the seam toward the garment's back. Follow the same directions for the other front. Now you can open the garment up like this, and it looks like this on the wrong side, while it looks like this on the right side, so you can't see your seams as well on the right side. Now note the front flap on the two front pieces. Here's a close-up of that flap that I'm talking about. We'll be attaching the collar to this flap, but you actually align the collar with the lapel, okay, which is kind of an extension out from the flap. But what's more confusing, you actually start sewing at that little flap. Okay, before you begin to attach it, let's look ahead so you can see why this is so confusing. This is how we fold the collar after we attach it, and this should help you understand. So, here in my right hand I have the lapel, and then in my left hand I'm folding the collar, and so I'm going to need a little detached piece of collar, okay, to fold in that's not sewn to the lapel. Okay, hopefully that helps you understand where we're going with this. And now, of course, we would start sewing the collar, but that's coming later. This was a little preview of what's coming up, so that you understand. So we're going to lay the collar flat against the shirt with right sides together. The next video clip shows you how you'll sew it, leaving a bit of collar unsewn right at the lapel. Okay, so here I am starting to sew. You can see that I've just inserted my needle, but there's a flap of collar that isn't attached. Okay, and then I'm going to continue to sew the collar all along the, I guess, top part of the bodice. And you also want the collar to have right sides together, so the finished side of the shirt touches the pretty side of the collar. Okay, hopefully that helps. Collars are tricky. So you'll stitch from the raw fabric extension all the way across the neckline where we did that little stay stitch, and I'm using a back stitch for this, until you reach the other side. Remember, when you started your stitch, there should have been that little bit of extra fabric in the collar to align with the collar's lapel point. Now, because I know how tricky collars can be, I gave you a little extra fabric for your collar. So your pattern actually allows for quite a bit of fabric. So please don't freak out when you see this little extension here. Just trim away the extra bit of collar. I always do this when I'm sewing. I make more collar than they give me. But you want it to be flush with the lapel point. Now, this is what I mean. Fold it in like this. Do the same to the other side of the collar. Fold it in like this, and then you fold the top of the collar once like this, and then a second time. Alright, of course it helps to have video. So we haven't attached the collar right here at the lapel. We fold it in, and then we fold it again, right along the longest edge, and then we're going to push up these raw pieces. See how I'm pushing those up? Then we're going to fold the collar down over them so that the raw fabric is buried inside the collar. You might have to tuck in some little threads, and then we'll start stitching here, probably right on that end. Now, I like to pin the collar in place before I begin stitching, just to kind of hold it. I use a whip stitch to close off the end, and then I continued to stitch along the neckline, tucking the shirt's neck into the collar as I went to hide all those raw edges of the fabric. Let's see how this works, shall we? So here I have a little video clip. It's always nice to have videos. Alright, so I am just taking my edge of my shirt and tucking it in between the two folds of collar so that those raw pieces don't show. And then I whip stitch. And you can see how my left hand is kind of pinching the fabrics together. This can help if you're going to whip stitch so that the collar lays flat. And with doll clothes, it is not like doing a collar for a human being. With doll clothes, the hardest thing is to get that collar to lay flat. So if you just pinch in between, you fold that little bit of raw edge in, and then you pinch with your left hand. If you're right-handed like I am, you pinch, and then you whip stitch along this pinched edge, and that can help to make that collar lay flat, which is so tricky with doll clothes. As you reach the other end of the collar, remove that last one of your straight pins and whip stitch to close off that end, just like you did at the other side. Now the hardest part is behind you. You can take a deep breath. You can set your collar up like this just to see how it's going to look. See how those lapels look, and are they kind of how you would hope they would look. Now lay your shirt out with the right side up. Place one sleeve against it, right side's facing. And now you're going to stitch from the underarm to just shy of the shoulder seam. You can see my stitches here. I stopped sewing about 2 centimeters, which is about 3/4 of an inch from the shoulder seam. Now wrap the other half of your sleeve around like you see me doing in this next video clip. And again, I do sleeves weird because it works best for dolls. It's not like people. So I wrap the sleeve around, and then I attach it right here where my left hand is. Okay, right there. Once again, you're going to sew from the underarm to just shy of the shoulder seam. So there's going to be a gap. This will leave a gap in the shirt's shoulder. And a lot of times you need to do a little bit of gathering at the top of the sleeve. Not always, but sometimes. Then you're going to stitch the top of the sleeve to the shirt. Fold the long straight edge of the sleeve once and then a second time, and whip stitch the edge of the sleeve to form a nice hem. So you can see I'm just hemming the sleeve here. Here's how my sleeve looks after hemming. You need to attach the other sleeve in exactly the same way and hem it too. Now the shirt back still has a raw edge. Look at the top of the screen and you'll see it. Fold these raw edges inside themselves and whip stitch to close them off. And that's what I've done here. Now the back of the shirt looks like this. While looking at your shirt from the right side, you're going to fold one of the fronts against the back, so fold that sleeve in half, just like this. And then you're going to stitch from the sleeve's hem across the seam at the underarm and down to the bottom of the shirt. Now you have created a side seam for your shirt. Follow the same directions for the opposite side. Invert the shirt, and that's what you see me doing here. This is such beautiful fabric. My brother and sister-in-law went to Fiji and they came back with this gorgeous fabric. Thank you so much, Mike and Cindy. I just love how this turned out. It's adorable. Very nice. Love that fabric. It's so soft to the touch too. Attach some sew-on Velcro at the front of your shirt. I used a whip stitch, but you could use a sewing machine to attach your Velcro, and you could use snaps too. Now if you need help finding sew-on Velcro in bright colors, I have a link to some in the description below this video on YouTube. Now you're ready to try your Hawaiian shirt on your plush toy. Like my firefighter bear. And remember, I have free patterns for making this sweet little bear as well. I've got a link to that pattern down in the description below this video on YouTube. Hey, did you know that you could design your own doll pants patterns from scratch with just a limited amount of sewing knowledge? Pattern design is made simple by connecting your doll's measurements with a template I give you during my course. I'm Shelley Wood, the doll clothing designer. I own Shelley Wood LLC and the website shelleywood.com. In my Creative Spark online learning course on doll pants design, I'll teach you the basic fundamentals of pattern design, like how do seam allowances work, before we move on to work on designing our own leggings, jeans, fly front pants, and even overalls. So please join me. I would love to see you on the Creative Spark online learning platform. Come see what we offer. Again, I'm Shelley Wood, one of the instructors.